Laban, probably a lot of you know me from the IROS videos. If I haven't worked directly with you, it's nice to see so many familiar faces and names that I've seen in the threads of IROS. And my colleague June Lee is responsible more than anybody for us, for the first time, making something like this available outside of STAP. And we're very generous with our intellectual property and our things we create, but we have never shared professional learning out to districts or schools or organizations or states or adjudicated youth systems or wherever this may end up going. We have never just said, here, take our course, make it better. We'll talk about that more at the end. Set it up yourself in a way that works for you for a very minimal fee. Since we don't hold intellectual property, that will be, there's no license that expires. This is your content to use, for as long as it's useful until better research comes along or better presenters than me and David and other better readings. We'll talk about the symbiosis of that. We do have some hopes for a sort of community to grow out of that, of supporting around this, what I think is one of the most important equity struggles and systemic letdowns we've done as a country, to collectively not teach our children to read in the early grades, and then teachers and students mostly and families are left picking up the detritus of that failure to teach them forever on. It's important work. So and there are too few resources. So I'm really happy. And that is all to say that June pushed and pushed and pushed for this to happen. This, we're a somewhat conservative organization behind the scenes in terms of how we function. And June's pushing and lobbying for this, and let alone the logistical work has made that possible. So eternal thanks to her for that. And I'm going to get going with the agenda so we don't keep people too long, or as long as we need to. So you will have the link to this. If you came in late, it's going to be organic. If additional questions come up and we haven't answered, June's going to capture those as we go. And this is going to be shared with you right afterwards, as will the recording be shared with everybody who is on the interested list. So basically, the big picture is what I just said in thanking June for pushing with me shoulder to shoulder so this would happen. We always believed this course would be better if it was done as a PLC or done at a school with with a local group of people who work together with students or work together supporting students. That you sort of a PLC, a dynamic discussion, a contextualizing of the course learnings would be a better way to do this course than this weird disembodied David and Meredith, talking through a lot of content and giving you some learning experiences. That is useful, but it'd be more vibrant and better if it goes home with you and is customized and actualized in all your settings. So that's we have this resource. We want it to be as vibrant as possible and useful as possible. So the punchline, what you'll get if you do decide to acquire the course content, you'll get all the recording, all the lectures, that's what Teachable calls them, all the little chunked videos with, slide videos with our voiceovers, all the readings, all the activities as we designed. It will all be editable. If you want to add your own introduction, if you want to voice over things with your own staff, and, get rid of me and David, you could do all of that. It will be your content. And so that's what you'll get. And then the other thing we're opening up is this spring 2020, the course that's running right now. We are going to open up, give you all access to that Teachable course if you took, whether or not you're enrolled in it now. Some of you took this course in the winter, early spring. So we're going to open up this current run of course to you after it's over, so you can see how we designed the course. We'll give you sort of, a Word doc with the discussion threads listed on it, but to see what was more vibrant, how you might want to modify those, that would be a rich area to modify and customize. So you'll get to see what we did and how we laid things out and where we chunked things. But you're on your own designing the course. So you need a platform. We assume that everybody working with kids, especially after the last year and a half, has a virtual platform that they prefer and have, their adults and students have gotten comfortable with. So you take it, you put it on the course. We are not, June is a brilliant math specialist. She is not tech support behind the scenes. So we don't have those people available to, to loan or to contract out to you as consultants. So you get the stuff, you have to package and organize it in a way that works for you. So that is, that's just the reality. That's the bare bones way we have to deliver it. I happen to think it's an advantage because you can make it work in a way that your teachers will respond to, and your educators, staff and coaches, everybody. So the obligations and costs are listed here. So you're again, we're not screen sharing because you all have access to this. So hopefully you have both screens on. If not, you'll get it later. So I'm mostly looking at the documents rather than you all. So we do want, before people take it, we do want you to have experienced the course with our facilitation and our responses and our facilitators' responses to the discussion threads, so that you can see the way the course was designed. So that now costs $10 per person, fairly modest course fee for your facilitator. So that is, I think, judging from the people I saw on the screen, that's happening or has happened for everybody. If you took it earlier, you got it for free. It's now available at the fairly modest price of $10 per person. We do want that engagement. So we do need people to present the certificate of completion that Teachable generates at the end of the course. So after you've done all that, clicked through all the lectures. And then there is a one-time fee of $500 to cover SAP's personnel costs. People sort of wrenching themselves out of their usual roles in order to prepare and replicate the course for you. That also covers our, collecting the course fees and all the back end stuff we have to do to start dealing with payments, which we are not used to. So that is it. Those are the costs and obligations. You experience a course, your team of facilitators, the people you envision being the lead, the sort of at-home experts, attend the course, and somebody presents a certificate of completion in that group so that we then release the materials to you. So what your facilitators will do, again, if you do this live, school to school to school, or you train all your state literacy coaches or whatever the different combinations are, the facilitators are the people that help explain the course content, so respond to discussion threads, or they are the people that stimulate the discussion and help integrate the realities, give the information with your home realities. They make the course content come alive. So if it's a PLC and you're doing it live, you're all watching together, or it's asynchronous and then you come together to process communally, whatever it is, those facilitators should keep that learning going. We have found we have to spend some energy helping teachers have keep a growth mindset when they're scared and don't know what to do for these older students. They sometimes default to, that may work for your kids, but my students aren't motivated. We try to really aggressively confront those kinds of mindsets, because we believe that a student who has reached 5th, 6th, and on up who can't read is making a rational decision if they check themselves out of what they can't do and have bashed their heads against the wall trying to do for years. So it isn't motivation, it is a lack of access. And so that's sort of the whole point. So that's what facilitators do. They keep it going. They help teachers stay in a growth mindset when they're actually quite terrified of taking on reading in their course areas if they're older, and if they're teaching older kids and aren't trained in reading and don't understand stuff. This isn't enough. It's just a beginning, but it's a good start. It is the research base as of 2020. Synthesized and with a learning arc that we think makes a ton of sense for an integrated approach to reading, and to start to look at what gaps need filling so your students can can actually break through and read comfortably and with confidence. If you already took IROS, some of you took it in an earlier iteration. We did recommend that people sign up. This is almost a past tense answer. We think you should take it with your team of facilitators to keep an eye on them and help them with their own learning and their own attitudes and mindsets. This whole experience, we are going to do this thing again in the fall. So because we already know that there are some big districts that sort of missed the boat and said, I couldn't put a team together in this 2 or 3 weeks window you gave me. So we've been saying, don't worry, we are going to do this at least once more in the fall, with the same opportunity for, what we're calling scaling, taking this course content home. Okay, so that is our one-page agenda. And now I'm going to come back and look at you all and see what questions come up or have come up. And we're a small enough group that it's just the agenda typed over and over again. So come off mute and ask questions if you have any. Otherwise, this will be, we'll be able to give you back a ton of time.
I have a question. I'm wondering, I did it with when you offered it, the first one, the free one, I went through it for free. And now we have a small team going through the $10 a piece person. I'm wondering, after doing it that first time, is there anything that you all have revised or changed?
Stephanie, we revised a couple of the discussion threads so that, where we didn't think they were effective. But again, I think that's a highly customizable feature, is to say, what out of this reading, what do I know my teachers, my coaches need to focus on? You might want to have different discussion threads yet again, because that's highly malleable aspect of the course. So that's it. There were some that we didn't think got anything. We actually took a few out and refocused some, but it was just it was based on what we saw in your run, of course. So no big deal. Do you have another question or?
So Chris-Ann, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
Chris-Ann LaHue, District of Columbia Public Schools, 9th grade academies. And I am curious about when you are a facilitator of the course. So I work with 9 schools and I have 9 assistant principals, some of whom are taking the course right now. I took it the first time. I'm taking it again this time, practicing my close reading skills. And I'm curious if in the fall I gain these materials and am facilitating them through the pieces that we select for our purposes. How much time do you picture a facilitator spending reading the discussion thread and responding to the discussion thread? Like, how does that aspect of the work?
Okay, well, I'll tell you what we did. And you all who are in the course can judge whether it was effective or not. So David and I are not very present in this run of course. I was there in the very beginning trying to, as I did last time, just understand these numbers have blown us away. I mean, 1,500 people enrolling in 3 days was just shocking. So so I was in the introduction saying, please, it's how, hi, it seems like you know a little about reading. Can you please be generous and share, respond to other people on the thread, don't leave it to us. And I do think that was a good model because we had a really dynamic discussion thread. So I went in again and did that again because we again have massive numbers, because it's not, this course is running for people who are waitlisted, beyond the 1,500 that wanted in last time. Your teams there's over 100 groups taking this as teams of various sizes. And then there's other teachers that just said, oh, this sounds good. And now it's summer and I'm going to do it. So, random people. So we have 3 facilitators, all of whom have other jobs who are moonlighting. And I have asked them to spend, because we are paying them hardly anything, about 5 hours a week or an hour every workday or on the weekends more. I was doing it more on the weekends because I thought there was interesting stuff was happening on the weekends and that's when I had time. So nobody's complaining that they feel completely neglected. So by charging the collective, all of us to build collective understanding, which of course is most empowering, that the participants respond to each other. The facilitators are spending about an hour a workday or 5 hours a week total. I think some of them really love it and maybe in there as much as 8 hours a week, which is a lot. That's a workday, right? For a coach or a district person. But for the 6-week run of course, about 5 hours a week is what we've done with only 3 facilitators.
So that's really helpful. Another question is, with 9 different schools, is it possible, assuming I become a facilitator and can manage this content somewhat, can you make 9 different versions, or do you have to make one, I'm in DCPS, one giant version and let the different schools come in and out? Or can you make 9 versions and let them interact in more close teams with each other? Do you understand the question?
Yeah, totally. That's up to you. I would make it one massive one and then have the PLC discussions at the school site. But man, if you have a chance to learn across 9 schools and create a network of learners, to me, that feels like a no-brainer. But your choice, your platform, we're not helping on that. I'll give you my opinion, but then I won't help you either way.
No, I hear you. I think it should be one big thing as well. But I have had the APs ask me, I've got some of them signed up taking the course right now, and some of them want to take the one in the fall. I'm just trying to get this thing moving. Your course is fantastic, in case I didn't say that. It is absolutely the most refreshing and invigorating thing I have experienced intellectually and professionally in years. And I love it. And I want, like, every teacher I know to learn these learnings and apply these learnings. And that's my mission. And I'll stop talking because I've done
Okay,
it.
well, thank you. I mean, I don't know what your platform is. Teachable, even the free version of Teachable lets you keep copying it. But I just think that having the discussion thread and then having each principal take ownership of how it lives in their school would be awesome. And you could just keep copying and reposting it every school year or something, right?
I have a question kind of related to that, just made me think about it. So Lauren Sterner and I are both from Philly public schools. And so we're thinking about, I mean, I have no idea how many people would want to do this course, but I don't know how many schools, we have 200,000 kids. We got a lot of kids, right? So we got a lot of teachers. So if Lauren and I are thinking about how to offer this for our secondary teachers, is there like a number, like a hard stop you would suggest, like, don't let more people than this do it, or you're going to go crazy? Or?
Well, we were pretty freaked about the 1,500 people in the late winter, you can imagine. And it was only, I think we only had 1 facilitator signed up, and me and Dave, and we were like, I gotta work, I have other jobs. I can't just do this 24 hours a day. And again, 3 facilitators handled it, but we actively invited people to respond to each other, especially when we saw, in the introductions became really important because people were profiling themselves. And so if somebody was a reading specialist or had migrated up from K2 or was a special ed teacher who loved, ELA or literacy, I really actively said, please be generous, like, please be responsive. If you see people misunderstanding something, help them. All that, I explicitly called people out to help one another, and it really to work. So I don't think there's a ceiling. The trick is to get your high school English teachers to believe that they have a responsibility for their kids and their kids reading. That's. Okay,
thank you.
Excuse me, I'd love to introduce myself. My name's Teresa Daly, and I also am from School District of Philadelphia, specifically Furness High School. So I'm so happy to see other colleagues here today. I haven't met you personally, but I just want to say that it was our assistant principal, Sharon Burke, who suggested that we ESOL teachers take this course back in the spring. And it was just at the time when we were transitioning back to in-person. So it was a little bit, we hoped to follow along in our daily PLCs, but it really got a little jaggedy. I did complete that first round. And then when we saw that it was being offered again now, again, at this point, it's just our ESOL team. But we have a lot of students from Guatemala, Honduras, El Salvador, who have never learned to read in their first languages. And we're just looking for ways to support them, you know, as appropriately and you know, productively as we can. So I just want to say that because I think there is interest at the high school level, and there, and certainly within our PLCs, we have a good structure for that. We are all very accustomed to using Google Meet, and all of that stuff is sort of taking care of itself. So, so this is really something really positive for us to hold on to now. And I look forward to, I'm getting the information tonight to take back to school. We finished on Monday, so I think folks are maybe just decompressing a little bit at this point, but we are really excited about it. So thank you.
Well, you know, if Philadelphia gets the course bundling, you may save yourself some money out of your school's budget. And I can't tell you how cool it is that your ESOL teachers are the ones pouncing on English literacy, you know, English reading. So, and you're right. I was painting high school teachers, of course, with a broad brush. Myself being a licensed English teacher, there are a lot of hard-headed English secondary teachers, but not everybody. I reformed myself. So there you go. So yeah, sorry about the broad brush, but.
Not at all. Thank you so much, Meredith.
Yeah.
I too really appreciated the information I got in the spring, and I'm looking forward to going through it again now because I feel like I have a different kind of headspace to take it all in. So thank you. And thanks for that message, Allison. I see it in the chat. That's great.
Yeah. And June has a little daughter that's going to be coming to Philadelphia schools. So you all have to you have about 4 years to get it before she starts. So. Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. Oh, sorry, Todd.
No,
Go ahead.
You go ahead first.
Okay. My first question is, I went through the course. I'm from Nebraska. I work in an educational service unit, so I probably won't have as much contact as some of the big districts that you're talking about. But I do have some that are taking it this summer and absolutely loving it. So I know that there's going to be interest. I took the course in the spring, pretty sure I didn't print out a certificate and not finding it on the website. So I'm a little anxious about that. So wondering if I can find the certificate. And my other question is, I'm thinking about the possibility of doing this synchronous and asynchronously so that we can kind of like your PLC concept, but bringing different like middle school teachers together from different schools, because I'm sure I'm not going to have 300, I'll probably have 20 to 25. But what do you think about something like that? They do a chunk of it asynchronously, and then we come together and have some synchronous conversations and possibly bring student work and examples that we can talk through.
I love it. When I used to teach alternative teacher prep in Vermont to all the tech teachers that were starting new from industry, we did that. They did readings and activities, and we came together it had to be Saturdays, you know, a few times because they all came from, you know, they were scattered all over the state. And it was lovely because we had relationship, and we had, you know, it's easier to pick up confusions and insights when you're together, and we're all kind of wanting to be together again when we can be. So in the next run, but we've all learned we can deal with this, right? So yeah, I think any creative solutions like that are fabulous.
And I'll voice over. Stephanie wrote something in the chat just for those who are watching the recording. We use Canvas as our LMS in Charlottesville, Virginia. I'm thinking we could set it up as a division-wide course, but then create groups within the course to facilitate small groups within the large group, and then also have some threads that are open to the whole course.
Oh, that's a really interesting idea. Did people pick that up? That would be a sort of Philly, the 9 schools in Philly. That might be a solution.
Hi, I'm in Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm a literacy supervisor for our district. I completed the course previously in the spring, and what we're looking at, all of our elementary school teachers have had the opportunity for the last couple of years. We've been doing a lot of work around science of reading, and they've been completing letters training from Voyager Sopris. And what we're looking at now is something that we can fill some gaps. So far, our secondary teachers, our middle and high school teachers, and I think that this would work really well. So here's my question, thinking about wanting to use this with our curriculum facilitators as a beginning point, what, and maybe I haven't looked into this enough and I've missed something somewhere, but looking at the costs that are involved. So once, if we were to do this, we get on board, we're ready to do this. How soon do we go through the course again as a facilitator? Or once we sign up because we've been through the course, that we then have access to the materials? I'm just wondering timeline, how soon can we start?
So June, correct me if I'm wrong, but we are planning to make the course available in about like mid-July, right? Like right after this course ends. So you having your certificate will be enough to unleash the course. You know, you'll get access to the Google folder. So it's up to you if you want your facilitators to take the SAP sponsored course in the fall. You know, that's if you think they would benefit from that. And certainly if they have no vision at all, I would recommend it just so they can have their own arc of learning before they're expected to be teaching it, you know, or troubleshooting other people's confusions. But, you know, up to you. That's the kind of, you know, this is a grand experiment. Many of our, many people we've told about it are like, oh, you're just like letting it loose. And we're like, yeah, because there's a big, nothing else has worked to fix kids reading, right? Like, why not let it loose? It's so, yeah. So anyway, it's an experiment and we're figuring things out as we go along. So up to you. I just don't know how you make sure your facilitators are comfortable with this content.
Well, I think
the reading comprehension is pretty radically different than people thought about.
Yeah, I don't think we're looking at initially having them. I think what my thinking is providing them this information as background knowledge to start building their capacity, not beginning to make them facilitators yet, but making them stronger at what they're doing first. And then we can look at creating the idea of them becoming facilitators within their schools. But I would like to first strengthen the knowledge base that our instructional leaders have within the school.
Right.
Those who will be making decisions already as we start the school year.
So June is writing in the chat, I can read it. It will be a shared Google Drive folder with PDFs, slides. It'll be a shared Google Drive folder. It'll have the PDFs, slides, documents that are view only that you can then make a copy of and customize, because we're not going to set up a custom drive for each of you. So you'll make copies of everything and take them onto your own. And the next SAP run of this course, we haven't set the date yet, but we're thinking fall, the later fall, early winter. If you want to plan ahead for facilitators to take it then, or, you know, plant teacher leaders in different schools and have them take the course in advance of their colleagues. There's all kinds of design things. You know, at $10 a pop, I hope that's, you know, it makes it somewhat flexible.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, it could be that if some of your facilitators are taking it now, they could train your future facilitator, your group of facilitators who haven't taken it. If you don't want to wait for if you can't wait rather for our fall run, and then that way you have your entire team of facilitators ready to run it with, for example, your teachers. And then if we could actually call on Irene.
I know she had her hand up. Sorry.
Yeah.
But just to say quickly, from the slides shared will have our David's and my voiceovers. Yes, they will be as you experienced it, for better or worse.
Thank you. So I teach 7th and 8th grade English. I'm in California. I've been doing it for 21 years. The last 12 years, I've been also teaching long-term EL students as well as English-only students who are not passing the SBAC. I have had no training whatsoever in reading comprehension because they don't do that for a secondary credential. So I'm looking for training for myself. I'm getting nothing from my district whatsoever. Is this course for me?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, other people think so. They'd be better. It'd be better to ask the collective, but you get some thumbs up. That is what it's designed for.
Okay.
You are not unique. It's not like California is doing a bad job and the other 49 states are just nailing this. Nobody is doing this. I would love to see this course like go to teacher prep programs or something, but not this course, but something like this.
Well, like from what Todd just shared, I mean, his school's already got an emphasis and they're looking for more, and I've heard other people share, and I'm just.
Todd, are you from Charlotte Mac?
No, I'm from Greensboro, Guilford County.
Oh, Greensboro,
yeah.
Greensboro's been focusing on literacy for quite a while, working with a reading company, et cetera. So I wish they aren't any longer, but they've been paying attention for a long time. It's just some districts, it just depends on staffing and priorities. Everybody's doing the best they can.
All right, thank you.
Meredith,
Questions?
I have a question. So I was wondering, having 1,500 people take it at the same time is a real opportunity to see where, what people tend to misunderstand.
Mm-hmm.
You obviously thought that through ahead of time, and you've been talking to people for the last 10 years or more about adolescent reading. And so you had a sense of what are the things that people might misunderstand, and you tried to head it off with the articles and the lectures. But I'm just wondering, were there things that maybe surprised you that came out across a lot of people where people just didn't get something in particular?
Well, yeah, I think the reading comprehension, that reading is holistic, the sum is bigger than, or the, whatever, I'm too tired of the expression, but the idea that the pieces go together in a seamless whole and can't be they can't be atomized. And, and I love the way we presented comprehension through the theory of mind. For those of you who haven't gotten it yet, we talk about the different layers of how the mind processes meaning at the text base and more globally. And our hope was that it would blow up once and for all this idea that you teach discrete standards or discrete subtasks. And so when we ask the $1 million question at the end, it's designed to sort of like, we want people's epiphanies around that. And what we're getting is we are getting defaulting back to, yeah, but not my kids. And so that is deep. And I know it comes from fear, but it's discouraging after the 6-week course when we feel like we're doing, yes, they can. Yes, they can. It's, it's us. We failed the kids. It's not the kids. And so it's a little bit discouraging that still pops up in the last discussion thread of the 4th module. You'll see it. You must have seen it yourself, Deb, unless you went through quickly.
Yeah, I might have gone through too quickly, but that's.
But that's a great, that point is part of why we want to share this run of course, because you will see for yourselves, even in a casual, you don't have time to read the thousands and thousands of discussion threads, I don't think. Unless somebody really made your jobs more humane than I know they are, but just getting the gist of where people are misunderstanding that's why we're making this run of course available in a static form. Once it's done, you'll be able to see where people went and where there's, and I think I would use that to modify the discussion threads themselves.
Are there any other national voices that are reinforcing that are saying, yes, we figured out you cannot teach standard by standard? Because every program that I look at, it seems like they align activity per standard.
Yeah, Stephanie's right. Tim keeps saying it.
Who is?
Tim Shanahan and his.
He is.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's been saying so for a long time. He talks a lot about the legitimate, the reading comprehension strategies that do have a research base, but they're not standards. They're things.
Until our test makers start listening. Debbie, that's until our test makers at the state level, or if you are a Common Core, start listening.
Or NWEA.
I see teachers sort of start to latch on to these ideas and they see it and it's like this sort of liberating idea. And then they're like, but I'm still being held accountable by this. It's such a wall to crack.
But they're not really, because even if someone has taken a test and tried to align it, isn't the point that you can't actually remediate standard by standard? So the state may present the test as where each question is addressing a particular standard or a few standards. But in fact, in order for kids to answer a question about text, they have to be able to read it in this holistic way.
Yeah, no, I agree. I just still, I know in my division, we just have a lot of work to do unbuilding or like tearing down some habits and building some new knowledge, like around that text first planning to me is like really the, but it's a hard shift for teachers to make.
It's really hard. Because you want it to be as easy and automatic as just reteaching the standard, right? But so, and it's something people have been taught to do. So it's also hard to go back and say, wow, all my ed professors were like wrong. You know, I've been taught wrong. And, you know, the implications of that for past groups of kids, I think all of us walk around with.
Yeah, and my principal is telling me I have to have a standard for each lesson. So.
Right, exactly.
How do I deal with that?
Yeah. So no, it's something we get discouraged about, but we keep trying. So, and we, you know, we've worked with publishers as much as anybody, and we've had hands in with assessment companies too, but they keep telling us this is what the customers want. We're like, no, you have a job to educate the field yourself.
Not if the customers.
Other questions before we all go off on our soapboxes.
Yeah, I have a question. So I'm thinking about this, and sorry, everybody, I think I'm kind of thinking out loud and wondering about it. I'm imagining that I will be bringing this to multiple districts, and I'm just figuring out the cost part of it. Do I include that in the cost for each district, and then they have access to everything that they can make copies of, or do I purchase it, copy it, and then facilitate in the different districts? I'm just trying to think about what that looks like.
Share a little bit about your role.
June, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, could you share a little bit more about your role?
Yep. So what I'm going to possibly do is be contracted as a consultant to a number of different districts. So I'm currently a superintendent and I'm retiring this year, but I'd like to continue the literacy work in Vermont. That's a big passion of mine. So I'm thinking of it that way. Just wondering what the best way to do that is.
So David just came to say hi and he wants to steal a power cord, but he's not getting it until after. Because we're on the road and only one of us brought a power cord. So Bev,
anyway, hi. I generally have nothing to add to anything, but hello to all of you. And congratulations, Bev.
You're getting lots of highs back in the chat. Bev, we might want to take that offline because we've been thinking we should talk to Dan French too. And there is, like, Nebraska's here licensing at a state level too. So, and June may have points of view about that too. So we may need to talk here, different models that we know about that people are doing. So we can talk offline about that if you want.
Perfect. Thanks.
Or if we figure out an answer, we'll put it in the chat in case other people need it. Wyoming would like to. Okay. Well, it's best to ask your questions, although some of them we have to take offline and then we'll get back to everybody with either an email response or whatever. Bev happens to be my state neighbor, so. So yeah, we need to get back to you on that one because I think I can tell June has thoughts and it just hasn't come up.
Perfect. Thanks.
And somebody else. So if you do have a question already, the whole reason for doing this is to avoid 42 phone calls. So we'd love to hear your questions.
Well, mine is more related to what she was just asking about. I hadn't thought about having the district sign up through the Student Achievement Partners website. I'm wondering if that's what she was saying. When I'm a letters facilitator, so if I'm wondering if maybe something like that couldn't work. They still continue to register through the letters site, the Voyager Sopris, but then I have access to all of their accounts so I can see the work that's been done, and then I can use, I could use it that way. I don't know if that's an option.
I think we don't have the technical capacity with our little low-level version of Teachable to give there's only 2 facilitator lines. So I go through the course as a participant myself. So one thing you could do is if we made the fall run of course available, you'd have to dig through the threads, or just plant your facilitators in there to keep an eye on the people you signed up. I mean, we're trying to do that so that kind of thing can happen in your home setting in a way that makes sense for you. So I'd say the best bet is, Robin, I would say that we could get it to you sooner than that. That, you know, we could probably get the folder ready. Maybe you'll be our guinea pig. It works, okay? Because that's, and again, I think it's obvious that since this is the first first pancake on the grill or whatever, we're figuring out a lot of stuff in real time. So your questions are helping us think through decisions we need to make. So Karen, I think that's the whole point, is like to license it at whatever scale makes sense. And then figure out how to keep track of it in-house, you know, in a way that works for you. We're not big like letters, and we didn't figure out the whole remote thing. But that's a nice model that they let you peek in. So we can't do that. You know, I know we can't do that. Unless you want to become one of our facilitators and respond to all the threads, and then you can see what your people are doing. There's an idea. We are always looking for other facilitators. Any other questions? Okay, so one other thing, we're going to send out a survey, and we expect we don't know, it might be somewhat competitive, maybe not, we're not sure, but we are willing to make David available for up to 4 hours of, this would be additional pay. It's a little, I always feel a little weird about, you know, making David available, selling David's time. But we're willing to sort of, for content consultancy, if a setting wanted that for a run of course, really finite, like 1 to 4 hours of sort of, not technical assistance, but content assistance. If you wanted him to come in and try to, you know, make the case for why atomizing reading instruction isn't right. There's going to be a Google form, because we're looking for like what you want to, you know, what you're envisioning. And then if there's more demand than he has time, we'll obviously have to be sort of let him pick where he thinks the best learning opportunities are, or it's the best use of him. But we are, that's another thing we're doing, not technical assistance helping you set it up, but content expertise. So, so I just wanted to let people know about that. The link to that survey will come out when you get the cloud recording and the follow-up email. So just we wanted you to know about that resource too. That's sort of the Lux version or whatever. And we have priced it already at $250 an hour. So it's up to 4 hours would be, wow, this transcript's not very reliable, $250 an hour, not $215. So that's just something else to think about. So Christiane, you could just email me. I think my email's in the course, or through the help desk, the mini course help desk. And then we could talk about becoming a facilitator. Oh, there's the email address.
Really interesting, Meredith. Tell me again how to go through the help desk.
No, mini courses at studentsachieve.net.
Yeah, I gotcha.
Okay. Anything else? Oh, Amy has something.
Hi, Meredith. I have a question, and I don't know, this might be, I don't know, I'm just going to ask it. Do you have any resources that you could sort of point us in the direction? Earlier, you mentioned just the struggle when working with teachers to sort of get them to believe in, you know, this approach and why. And sort of beyond just that growth mindset, some things that really sort of go to the heart, things to read, to consider, to help sort of respond to. I think that's one of the places I'm really sort of stuck at, of how to continuously push back in a positive way that people can receive the knowledge and see it as a possibility.
The one book that popped into my mind when you were talking, and then of course I have the author, but not, is it's old. It is written by a guy named Mike Rose, who was Lives on the Boundary. I read it when I was a young teacher, so it's at least, anyway, he's Mexican American, California. He was low tracked just because of language or neighborhood or whatever, the typical story. And he was confused with another Mike Rose at some point and upper tracked. And he ended up becoming a professor, mostly a writing professor. And he talks about what literacy was for him. It's a very, moving, inspirational book. And it's very honest. He's grew up, he has different identities than a lot of the people that he spent his career with. He's old now, I'm sure he's retired, but I found that a really effective book to be like, so, oh wow, what we do to kids, it's that kind of book, but it's a full length autobiography, it's sort of his educational autobiography. You might want to do that, that sort of, oh, what we do to kids thing. The activity in the first module of, did I just get smarter in 30 minutes or did I get more fluent? Like trying to get, and having teachers experience disfluency. I think I've never seen a group of educators when we do it live, or even we have had to do it on Zoom, in breakout rooms, or just everybody going on mute even, where teachers pretend to be disfluent for a minute. I've never seen people not rattled by that and discombobulated, who are competent readers. And then to think about walking a mile in their students' shoes who experience that, not for a minute, but for 6 hours every school day when faced with reading. I think, it doesn't take you all the way home. I mean, it's built into the course. And then I told you we still have this. Yeah, but my kids aren't motivated, popping up every which way. So I don't know. It's such a hard question. Anybody else have stuff that has articles or things that have all of a sudden turned teachers' heads the other direction and hearts?
Well, this is, we're doing something now. It takes a lot of time and it takes a lot of cheerleading, but we tried to plant the seed about guided reading and get people information about why it doesn't work and balanced literacy and all that, and couldn't move anybody. Finally convinced a principal to look at things differently, and he just kind of told his teachers they had to do this work. He brought in Teaching Lab to support them with implementing EL. And we still had people saying, and we had tried to implement EL a few years before, and they all said, oh, listened politely and said, no, thank you. And I don't know how much all of you know about Vermont, but that's kind of how they do things. It's all about local control and everybody gets to do what they want. And so then now it became you have to do it in this one particular school. So it's a small school, right? So there's 100 kids, grades K through 8. But the principal said, this is what we're doing. You have to do it. And, I had said, if we could get some amazing results from like this one school, we're a really small district. All our schools are about this size. That word will spread, and, let's see what we can do. And so that is what we're experiencing this year. It's very uncomfortable for the teachers, even though they have Teaching Lab and an amazing coach supporting them through this work. It's been hard, and they keep saying, I don't think they're learning the standards. I don't think they're getting it. I just don't think so. And just recently, at the end of the year, they are amazed by what these kids are able to do. So local assessment scores, SBAC scores, everything. And all of a sudden they're like, oh, this works. So now we've kind of mandated across all the schools that they're going to have to use EL K-2, and we're going to try to get this one school, Meredith and David, it's Brownington, get them to cheerlead their colleagues. So this is, it's really super time consuming. You know, you're not going to get instant buy-in, but I felt it was a better way to get more people to buy in and to get this kind of small group to start. They need this course. They need all of the why behind it. They need more, but at least it was a start, and a way to begin. So, you know, that's kind of what it looks like in a really small setting. And we're super, super rural. All our schools are Title I schools, very, very high poverty. Yeah.
That's good to know. It's good to hear. And Teaching Lab does do that intimate cycles of inquiry approach. They keep coming back and take more bites of the apple. So it is a very immersive approach. So yeah, any words to take us out or anything else for the last 5 minutes? I think we're slowing down.
I have something to add. So I am an instructional coach and curriculum specialist in my school district. And I'm in the state of Utah, and our state office of education just mandated that if your district didn't meet the threshold, which was pretty much all of them in the state, for K2 and the early literacy initiative that we've had for a while, you are now mandated to do letters training. So, but that was after my district contacted 95%, and they had 95% group, which is their tier 2 intervention. And then they created 95% core. So for me, I have mostly focused on secondary. I was a struggling reader. I didn't really feel confident in reading, probably even into high school. And I did phonics. I had a tutor by myself, one-on-one for 2 years, and it still was hard. Tears. And for instruction to be based on the science of reading and have the results that we are seeing in my school district at 4 of our pilot schools are incredible. And I think, so what I'm saying is teachers don't know that they know that something's not working, but they can't put their finger on what's not working. But it's because they don't know the skills that kids aren't coming with. And now that I know, when you look at I forget, I think it's the first module where it's the 7 strands that come together in a rope. When you look at all of those skills put together and you're like, holy smokes, that is everything that helps move children into reading, then you realize, well, even if a student was missing one of those strands, they're at a deficit. Add 2 or 3 more, they're even at a greater deficit. And when that perpetuates, helping teachers understand it's not that kids want to be unmotivated, it's that they lack the confidence in themselves. So that is leading to the lack of motivation.
Yeah.
And so I think having the approach that we're not blaming you, we just didn't know what we didn't know. And now we know, and we can no longer operate with business as usual because it's not working. And we are failing our students if we're sending them to the next grade level, if we're sending them to the next school without making sure they are a confident reader.
Well said. So hopefully we can catch them where they are and not make them have to sit in place while we figure ourselves out. So yeah, so anybody else? So those are good words to go out on, unless anybody else has another question or a comment.
You know, Amy asked a question about how to help upper level, 7 through 12, maybe teachers understand that this is a priority. And, I've been doing it for a while, but really have had no support in training. So I've had to discover on my own, Amy, what you're, the answers that you're looking for. And I finally realized it's easy for an English teacher to accept that if a student was out sick in 3rd grade and missed multiplication or whatever, oh, that's why they struggle in math. They never, mastered the basics of multiplication or division or fractions or whatever. So when I was given that analogy, because English teachers, we like analogies, that if a student missed something in second grade, if they didn't get that phonics lesson, if they didn't get that one piece, you know, the whole foundation is crumbled. And I was going through a book last year with a friend, a colleague from another district, because I don't have anybody else to work with. And I think it was kind of book off of the Amazon, something about how the brain works. And we were going through that, and that's what helped me.
Yeah.
So an analogy like that might swing your reluctant upper grade English teachers.
Oh, there is another one. I'm sorry, so many people have left. We commissioned a graphic guide to reading from the Center for Cartoon Studies. It's going to be available in August. And it too is going to be a free resource, but it's geared to kids, but it also will educate teachers, and it's how the brain learns to read. So you saying that prompted me. So that's another resource. We definitely wrote it toward kids, but knowing their teachers would be reading it. And David is leading a team that's going to build out materials on that. That will also be available, like a 2-week unit around reading in the brain, how the brain learns to read. So, you know, geared to adolescents, I read, to your point. So, or anybody 5 through 12. The protagonist is a maybe 8th grade girl. So anyway, yes, another resource coming your way. We try to keep them coming. So we're at time, and yes, maybe we can send a notice out. It'll go out through our usual Sunday blitzes, I'm sure, when we promote it, but maybe we'll send a special IROS note out that it's available. So keep the questions coming through the mini course desk, and they'll get, you know, either June or I will field them. There's a couple questions we need to put our heads together. We'll add to the FAQs that we'll share. And then the do you want any time with David survey will come out when we send the cloud recording and the transcripts and all of this. So thanks for your time, and thank you all for you know, sticking with us with IROS and helping us make it better. We're hoping that maybe in this process we could create a network of people using it that would sort of, you know, this kind of hour is really useful for people who are all doing a similar work, you know, from different corners of the country and different, you know, rural, very urban settings, big cities, little towns. So thanks. We will get back to you with more.